Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
I'm Hannah Elliott.
And I'm Matt Miller. This is Hot Pursuit. Coming up on today's podcast,
I'm going to tell you about the Ferrari I drove this week in Portugal. It's the Ferrari Amalfi.
But first, we talk about Ford's $19.5 billion write-down in a pivot away from EVs. And this, Hannah, was an absolutely massive story, as you can imagine, this week. And it says a lot about not just what's going on at Ford, but what's going on in the Western Hemisphere, really, or in the Northern Hemisphere, because we've had the U.S. and now the EU pull back from stricter car regulations.
Yeah, and I think you had Jim Farley, the CEO of Ford, on your show. That's an amazing get. And basically the news is that Ford's going to take, a $20 million hit?
$20 billion.
$20 billion to not make the EVs that it had struggled to make profitable for years.
Exactly.
Does that encapsulate it, basically?
I mean, it's a multifaceted story. So as everyone knows, Ford has been losing billions on EVs already. The first year, it was a couple billion, and then it was $4 billion, and then it was $5 billion. And yeah, the Ford F-150 Lightning is their biggest money loser, the pickup truck that's all electric. But they lose money on the Mach-E, the Mustang Mach-E, as well, every one they sell. So they've taken this huge write-down to cover a battery business that they were working on with SK1 in Kentucky, and the big new plant, Blue Oval City, that they've built in Tennessee for their next generation pickup truck, the T3. That's the internal code name, pickup truck. And I have to say, I was pretty excited for the next generation pickup truck. Jim Farley once said it's going to be like the Millennium Falcon with a back porch on it.
I'm speechless. I don't even know what that means. I mean, that's kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was very, very cool. I don't know what that means either, but
it's descriptive, but also not descriptive.
I want a Millennium Falcon with a back porch on it, and whatever. It just sounded so cool.
It sounds like it's from Spinal Tap.
Yeah. So initially, when I heard this news, I was bummed out because I thought
because you like the Lightning, right? I
liked the Lightning, and I love the Ford Motor Company. I've been covering them for decades. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite vehicles I've ever owned, my F-150 Raptor, I picked up at the Rouge, at the truck plant in Dearborn.
Cool. That's very cool.
And I got the keys from Alan Mullally and Bill Ford, who drove it out to me. So I care a lot. Yes. And I always want to hear about and see new products. So I was bummed at first. But then I started thinking, what are they going to make at Blue Oval City in Tennessee? And the company hasn't been too clear. They never want to tell me all that they know about new products. And I'm not sure they know exactly what it's going to be either. But they did say that they're going to build another truck there. But not the same truck as the F-150. Yeah, so
a completely new platform?
I mean, the sky's the limit as far as my imagination is concerned, right?
We know that. We know that to be true.
It's going to be a gas-powered truck. It's going to be a combustion engine. Now, it could be some sort of hybrid. They could put a battery somewhere in there.
Yeah, I see that their plan is not pivoting away from hybrids.
Yeah, I mean,
they're not going to throw out the baby with the bathwater.
No, and they'll still make EVs for sure. They may even still make 100% battery electric vehicles. Like maybe they'll still make the Mustang Mach-E, right? But most of their powertrains will shift towards hybrids and e-revs, as you know, because Jim Farley's been on this podcast before. He's very excited about e-revs, which is, a battery-powered vehicle with an onboard gas generator, essentially.
Yeah, and there are performance applications for that, for sure. It basically helps make acceleration more seamless.
Yeah, like in the E-Ray.
Exactly, a straight line of torque. It's great, and also you don't have to plug in if you don't want to.
Right, and the Porsche that you drove, I've actually driven it too, the GTS, right? It's got a like an electric part of the turbocharger.
Yeah, and you can't really tell when it's switching between the electric power and the internal combustion. It's very seamless.
Yeah, so
I would say
it can be awesome. Basically, is the bottom line for hybrids, and E-Revs. I know Jim is super excited about that, but I started thinking about the fact that they could go back to basics in some ways with their trucks. Now, I looked it up. The F-150 or the F-Series itself has been made since 1948. And
that's amazing.
And yes, and in terms of brand awareness, I have to think that an F-Series pickup truck is up there with like Coca-Cola and Levi's. Like,
iconic.
It is absolutely.
Yes.
But the F-150 has only been around since 1975 because they used to have like the F1, 2, 3, and then they had the F100, the F.
Sure.
So I mean, it's just like it is trucks, but it would be cool if they made something that was back to basics because I know a lot of small businesses or contractors, they want this new truck, but it's all aluminum, right? The aluminum body, and if it breaks,
why do they want that? For lightweight?
No. I mean, Ford sells the truck. It's an aluminum body. They all are aluminum bodied.
Okay.
Right?
So they're saying keep it. We don't want to lose that.
Well, Ford is still going to keep that at.
Okay.
They'll make that at Kansas City. They'll make that at Dearborn. They'll make that where they make the F-150. But contractors and small businesses, when they go to repair a body panel that's aluminum, they realize, oh, this is very expensive. And shops are like, we don't have the expertise or the gear to do that. So and Ford has had trouble with its aluminum plant, right? They had that huge fire that's cost like billions, essentially. And so I was like, man, maybe they go back to a steel-bodied truck.
Okay.
I think that would just be so cool. It's retro, It's hardcore. It's built Ford tough.
Sounds ultra heavy.
Yeah,
ultra heavy.
True,
right?
But they all were before, whenever this generation was announced in 2015, right? Before that, they were steel-bodied trucks. So you don't have to go back that far. And then they're much easier to repair. You could repair it yourself. You and Magnus could put louvers in the hood or do whatever you want to do to it.
You should see what my dad did to his F-150. I want to say it was late 70s, maybe a 79 F-150.
I love that.
He did a lot of crazy things to it.
Yeah, but you can, in your house, you could weld your panels together, and
for better or worse.
And then I started thinking, what if they bring back the 6.2 liter V8, the one that was in the first generation Raptors, it wasn't.
I was going to ask about that, not to cut you off, but where does the whole off-roading segment fall into play here? Because we know Jim Farley loves a race.
Yeah.
And we know he wants to go for some off-roading titles. We know Ford's going to be jumping into F1 in 2026, not as a full team, but they're going to be supplying engines.
I mean, that's a great question.
So how does that all figure into it?
I'm not sure how much that figures into this specific announcement. And by the way, I haven't even gotten to probably the most interesting part for most people, the most interesting part for Wall Street. But on off-road, I don't know, because you want the lightness of aluminum, right?
Yeah.
But if you're in the Dakar, you probably want to be able to repair it yourself in the desert. And
I admit, I do not know the ins and outs of this rabbit trail we're on to know.
I don't know either, and I don't think we're going to find out what they're going to make there for
but
a
it's
few
really
years.
I would definitely say just this conversation alone makes Ford really an interesting company to watch for 2026.
Yeah, for sure. And the most interesting thing in terms of an investor or in terms of just an onlooker who's watching this business is they're going to turn those battery plants in Kentucky that were a JV, they're taking them over 100%. And instead of making batteries for cars they're going to be making essentially power walls or energy storage products for data centers.
Oh.
Which I think is mind blowing. It's on the one hand, it's of course, data centers are going to need a lot of those, and we're going to be searching high and low for energy. And and it reminded me of COVID in a little bit. Like when you have these natural, or when you have these national disasters, I should say, or these national times of need, and you've got to boost production of, I don't know, airplane gas tanks or protective gear, car makers spring into action and help out. They have these resources, they know what they're doing, and they can produce a ton of masks or a ton of belly tanks. And right now we need energy storage products. We need big batteries for data centers. And now this car maker at least is springing into action, and there's so much more demand than there is supply. So it's going to clearly do well in this business. And it strikes me as, on the one hand, obvious, and on the other hand, genius.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And this is maybe peripherally related, but Ford, if I recall, Farley has talked about potentially doing a partnership with Waymo to further develop self-driving with a partnership with Waymo, not their own robo-taxi fleet. That idea was canceled at Ford. But to work on some of that technology in a partnership with Waymo is also interesting.
It is.
I think
There's
Ford's
so much.
own. Yeah, Ford had Argo AI, right?
Yeah.
Which was canceled, but it doesn't mean they've stopped developing some of that technology.
Yeah, for sure. So there's just so much going on.
Here's a question for you. How do you think Ford is positioned versus General Motors when they seem to be taking slightly different strategies here going into 2026?
It's a really good question, and it was also one of my first thoughts. Because Ford has been losing, multiple billions of dollars every year on its EV push. And GM has only been losing, like $2 billion a year.
Oh, that's pennies on the dollar.
Ford has only a couple of products out in electric, right? The Lightning, well, now it's canceled, but had the Lightning, and the Mustang Mach-E, whereas General Motors has the Equinox is electric, the Blazer is electric, Cadillacs, they have a couple that are electric.
Celestiq?
Yeah, and the Lyriq, and they have an electric SUV, and they have the big electric SUV, the SKIQ.
Sure, which I really liked. I don't think you liked it.
I didn't love it that much, but I love the GMC Sierra EV, the Chevy Silverado EV. I love the Hummer. The Hummer EV.
Wow, they do have a ton.
Yeah.
When you start listing them, then you realize,
those are all 100% battery electric vehicles. There's no gas engines, and I think they've done pretty well with the sale of much of that product. Although, of course, they're losing money on them as well. But
and I'm just looking at this piece that you recommended from our colleague Craig Trudell, and in the piece, GM CEO Mary Barra says EVs remain our North Star. So they're kind of doubling down. It's almost the opposite of what Ford is doing.
Yeah, it'll be so fascinating to watch this rivalry as it goes ahead. And I mean, they've always been different companies in a sense, but obviously the two biggest American car makers going head to head in Detroit. So I just think what an incredible news week for car makers.
Totally.
And you were, by the way, you have a piece out on Ford as well on the Expedition. We all remember when you were in Texas and you got that big belt buckle that the truckle that holds a key. So you've got the story out. So
the story is finally out. Yes, and I have to tell you, it's not strictly a car piece. It's actually a travel story about Texas and how Texas is sort of a prism right now for America at large, with all of its complexities and contradictions and history. So I recommend you read the story. And the Ford Expedition King Ranch does get a mention in the story. Because that is what I drove on this long, winding road trip through Texas. And it felt pretty perfect. And I started seeing like dozens of Expedition King Ranches on the road. So it felt like the perfect home for that.
Actually, ever since you wrote it, I've been looking around. I see them all over the place, too.
Yeah, it's wild.
And I actually asked Jim Farley when he was on if we were going to see a comeback for the big American naturally aspirated V8. And he was pretty clear to say, like, listen, we still want to do what's right for the planet. We're not looking to overly pollute.
Okay.
But he didn't say no. So
it's not no.
I feel like the Expedition is like the perfect platform for the 6.2 liter.
It works great. I mean, that is so big, so big.
It is, and I mean, yes, they have a lot of power in the twin turbocharged V6 that they have now, but anyhow. I look forward to reading your story. I look forward to hearing what you have to say about the Ferrari Amalfi, because it is the successor to the Roma that I've drooled so much over recently. And I think it's also a departure from the days of the California in that it's a much better vehicle. But I don't know. We'll hear about it on the other side of this break. Hannah went to Portugal to drive a Ferrari. Stay with us for more. This is Hot Pursuit. Welcome back to Hot Pursuit. I'm Matt Miller here with Hannah Elliott. And hey, Hannah, do you feel like someone's listening to you all the time?
I feel like, Big Brother is listening, or, Big Jim Farley. When we were having a conversation in the last segment, I'm not reading my emails, but I did see one pop up, and the name on it was Jim Farley. And I was like, wait, what? Can you hear us? It was an email from the real Jim Farley, wishing
just randomly the CEO of Ford just
holidays.
Randomly messaging you.
I'm sure for sure I'm the only one that got this email.
I got it too, and
what? I thought I was the only one.
That's he's
pretty funny.
He's the best. It's pretty good. It's his holiday greeting card. By the way, unrelated to cars or Jim Farley, but today was the ECB press conference. So we're recording this on a Thursday. We put it out on a Friday. That's our normal MO. Today was the ECB press conference, and at the end, Christine Lagarde wrapped it up by saying Merry Christmas. And then I feel like she caught herself, and she didn't want to be excluding anyone. So she said, or Happy Holidays. And then she kind of stumbled for a second and said, or whatever is most convenient. Which doesn't make any sense at all. But I think she couldn't think of the word Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or whatever it was. So
or anything.
And then across Wall Street, guys were messaging me and they were like, hey, dude, Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays or whatever's convenient, whatever's most convenient to you.
I love it. It spawned 1,000 memes already.
All right, let's get to that Ferrari because you got to go to Portugal and I'll remind everyone, I haven't driven a Ferrari since I think 2016 or maybe even 15 when I was lucky enough to drive the FF for a week. That very same FF.
I love the FF.
Yeah, no, it was amazing.
So
and
cool.
by the way, the very same car the next week, Fernando Alonso was driving it around Austin, Texas.
Sick.
So my butt was in the same place that Fernando Alonso's butt eventually was.
Wow.
But I haven't driven one since. So I watched from afar, and one of my favorite, in fact, I would say since then, right, since the F12, I guess, my favorite Ferrari is the lowly Roma, the entry level.
Oh, I love the Roma.
I think it's so gorgeous, and it's can do everything I need a car to do. And this, what you drove is the successor to it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'm totally with you on the Roma. I think that it doesn't get enough respect, but I loved the Roma when it came out in 2019. And the Amalfi is the successor. This is the 2+2, basically Grand Tour that Ferrari makes. The starting price is $262,000. It's probably at the moment the most affordable Ferrari that you can buy new. It's twin turbo V8. It's got just over 630 horsepower, 8-speed dual clutch transmission, 0 to 62 in 3.3 seconds. The headline of the story, though, is that it brings back tactile buttons to the steering wheel. And this is a big deal because the one gripe with the Roma was that the steering wheel had little haptic screens to even start the car.
Wait, screens on the steering wheel?
Yes. You just had to know where to push, and then it would light up, and then it would start the car. Everybody hated it.
That's
and then
going
also,
too far with the screens.
Right, and that was on the left. And then on the right thumb, there was this other little screen pad that you would use your right thumb to control the screen in front of the steering wheel to try to control basically everything else in the car. It was really a bad idea, and it was awkward and uncomfortable to use. So the headline on the Amalfi is Ferrari, and they actually used the word, they made a mistake. They said, literally in Portugal, we made a mistake. And so we fixed that mistake by bringing back an actual start button, an actual tangible button on the steering wheel to control audio and navigation and windshield wipers. And so that is,
Thank
it
goodness.
seems small, but it's a big deal. And I do think it's a big deal for an automotive company. And we've seen this a couple times to say, oops, sorry, we actually are going to listen to our customers and we're going to take one step back to go 2 steps forward, basically. So that's big. The other thing that I don't know how you're going to feel about this, I have mixed emotions. Actually, I think I know how I feel. So you know how the Roma nose is like that really beautiful lattice grill?
Yes.
It's like a shark nose, and it looks like the old Ferraris from like the 60s.
Yes.
So they've done away with that in the Amalfi. And now the front is like more of a modern car. Doesn't have that beautiful nostalgic grill.
I mean, I'll have to
And
look.
I miss the Rome. I do think the Amalfi looks really good. A couple other changes on the Amalfi from the Roma are the front's different. You can just look at it and see it's very different. The rear taillights are a lot thinner. They're in this black band that goes around the rear of the car. There is active aero on the back now with 3 different stages based on how fast you're going.
I don't know about that. Do you need active aero on a car that you're supposed to just like go out to dinner in and maybe like commute to work in?
I don't know.
It's not a track beast,
Here's
right?
another. It's not. No, it's not a track. You can take it on the track. They, of course, the guys in Portugal were very specific about you can't. This car is suited for the track. You can take it on the track, but it's not the Ferrari you take to the track. It's not even a 296. This is something that you go for a beautiful drive. There are 2 back seats that will fit children or some luggage.
Infants,
basically, and it drives so beautifully. It's just like beautiful silk. It's like just wrapping yourself in a silk sheet and rolling around.
How much does it cost? What's the entry price for this?
$262,000 is starting U.S. price.
$262.
$262.
For no options yet.
That's right. But think about when we talk about Aston Martins. Think about when we talk about a couple of the higher end Porsche 911s. Think about when we talk about even that Mercedes AMG GT.
Yep.
This is cheaper or the same price as all of those cars. And it's a Ferrari. I find that very fascinating. Oh, one other thought that I had about the cabin. They have a tiny screen in the center that is the control screen. It's a touch screen, and it's pushed pretty far down and back toward the dashboard. So it's really not in your face, because the idea is you don't want a big screen in your face. You want, like, it's an analog experience, which I understand, but it might be too far down and too pushed back, because I found that trying to look at the screen on the to navigate my route, driving these unknown roads, and it was rainy, and then looking back at this road and then looking down to make sure I'm not missing a turn and then looking back, it was kind of distracting. And I did actually miss a couple turns, and I'm going to blame it on the nav.
But why do you have to look at the screen? Is the navigation system's there too?
The navigation system was there. Now, I've asked Ferrari, and they haven't got back to me yet. I actually emailed them this morning to check. I asked, is there a heads-up display in this vehicle? Because I couldn't find it in the car that I had. I don't know if I couldn't find it because there wasn't one, or it was user error and I couldn't find one.
But in front of the steering wheel, are there gauges, or is there a screen there too?
There's a screen there too.
Oh.
So the only navigation
That's no
I had
bueno.
was down to my right, sort of tucked under the dashboard on the screen. Now, the jury is still out because they haven't got back to me.
Right.
And maybe I was missing something, but it was.
I imagine you
ideal.
can put the directions, or at least an arrow, in what would be the gauge cluster in front of you.
Yeah, I would hope. I did not find that in my testing, but I've asked, so I can report back. Next
It
week
is
on that.
a huge step forward that they've gone away from little haptic screens on the steering wheel, and that they're trying to get the screen out of your face in the center console. And I'll give you a glimpse into the future, Hannah. When you get older, you start to think, the world's not going the right way, and I need to tell everybody why it's wrong, and hopefully I can change the tide a little bit. And it feels like that's happening right now, because all of these automakers are coming back a little bit like, okay, we went too far with the screens. They don't need to be, iPad giganto size, and we need to have buttons for functions that you use on the regular. Now, I feel like the Ferrari that I saw on your Instagram post, and by the way, what's your Instagram?
My Instagram is Hannah Elliott XO, and that's 2 of everything on Hannah Elliott. So 2 N's, 2 H's, 2 L's, 2 T's, XO. Hannah
Elliott XO. I was looking at your Instagram, and you showed the steering wheel, the layout, and really the whole cockpit interior. And I thought, it's good that they're going back to buttons, but that's still way too many buttons. There's one for answering the phone and hanging the phone up, and there's the cruise control buttons, and there's the navigating your gauge cluster, and this is a Ferrari, so obviously there are turn signals up there. There's a start-stop button. There's the Manatino. You've got the volume switch on the back of the steering wheel, and you've got the track forward and back on the back. There's just too much going on the steering wheel. I feel
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
What if you thought that made it feel more like an F1 car? To have all of the controls on the steering wheel so you never had to move your hands. Because I think that's what they're going for.
I mean, but it doesn't, because Formula One drivers aren't answering phone calls, And,
Do we know that?
They're not checking their Instagram and their gauge cluster. It's a little silly. Yeah. I get the turn signals.
I love the thumb turn signals.
And I understand also, volume up, volume down. Plus the start-stop button looks very cool there. It doesn't have to be there, but it looks very cool there.
It's awesome.
And the Manatino also is fine.
Yes.
But it just looked to me like the other buttons that were clearly replacing the little haptic screens, all of those buttons, in my opinion, should be not on the steering wheel. And
I don't disagree.
And they also kind of looked like black plasticky cheap,
Yeah. I don't disagree with you on that. That's very perceptive. And yeah, Ferrari has this way of creating some tension between perfect driving, and this new car has brake-by-wire, which means basically that the brake pressure feels more consistent and balanced. And yes, that idea was put into my head when I was talking to the engineers about it, but I also could feel it when I was driving. So the car drives really beautifully. And yet there are these little things that we can quibble about inside, but somehow that tension could be charming.
Right.
Are we being too apologetic here?
I would love to talk to an engineer or a car maker CEO about. I know why they go to throttle by wire and brake by wire and electronic steering. It's so that you can change all of the settings with your Manatino, right?
Yes.
But why not put out a car that doesn't have any of that? And I'm, on my hunt for an older 911, I've gravitated towards a newer one, the 997.1. The first generation of the 997 doesn't have any of that stuff. It doesn't have even direct injection. But it does have a clunky looking infotainment screen for navigation. And the first thing I would do if I were to actually buy one of those cars is I would take that out. They sell a little cubby that you can buy, and you pull out that screen and just put in a nothing like the GT3 would have.
Okay.
Because if I have a throttle, if I have a clutch, if I have a stick shift, if I have a turn signal stock, if I can operate my windshield wipers like I would any other car, I don't need all the crap that's in the infotainment screen. I just don't need it.
I agree with you.
And I know that Ferrari wants to appeal to some who want the newest, and they're the highest tech, and they're F1 and all of this, and that's great. But why not make a car that is analog? You've got to keep up with safety regulations and all of that stuff, I understand. But why would a Ferrari, for example, need a digital screen in front of the steering wheel? Why not have beautiful, expensive-looking analog gauges with little platinum painted needles,
They could do that. But I would just say also, as a brief note, Ferrari does feel pretty analog compared to something like Mercedes, which Mercedes truly is pushing the boundary here with a lot of tech. Self-driving, Ferrari doesn't have that. Screens that actually work and are beautiful and not obtrusive, Ferrari doesn't have that. So compared to being in a Mercedes, a new Mercedes, the Ferrari does feel relatively analog to what some other automakers are doing. And I actually asked them about that, and they seem very unbothered. They are not trying to be the cutting edge infotainment brand. They're trying to, of course, they need to be competitive and it needs to be good, but they are not bothered by trying to be the cutting edge of, level 3 self-driving, for instance.
I'm not sure about this statement, but I'm going to guess.
You can say it anyway.
I would guess that if you look at how many microchips are in a Ferrari versus a Mercedes, you're going to find more in the former than the latter.
In the Ferrari?
In the Ferrari. Yeah, because this is it's kind of a guess based on Chris Harris's 25-minute video of the Purosang.
Okay.
He went into detail explaining the suspension at every corner, and it's basically like they have a supercomputer at each corner of the vehicle. Mm-hmm. And I know why they do that, and I asked Benedetto Venia about this, but I just think they could make one car that's for the purists. And by the way, an Amalfi or the Roma, these are perfect vehicles in which to put a manual transmission, a stick shift with 3 pedals.
I know we need to break, but I have to tell you this story about a dinner I had. Literally one night in Portugal, I was on the ground for one single full day, which was the drive day. And I sat next to Raffaele De Simone, who is Ferrari's development driver. And he is an absolute legend. He actually told me, I'm going to tease the story with this, that in a road car on Ferrari test tracks, he's faster than George Russell for about 5, 6, 7 laps.
Whoa!
And until George learns the track, and then George catches up and beats him. But I just thought that was so cool.
All right, we'll hear that story on the other side of this break. I'm Matt Miller with Hannah Elliott. This is Hot Pursuit. Welcome back to Hot Pursuit. I'm Matt Miller with Hannah Elliott. Hannah, you were just about to tell us about sitting down at dinner in Portugal with a Ferrari engineer.
I had literally sat at dinner next to Raffaele De Simone, Ferrari's development driver. And he was telling me how Michael Schumacher would always come by through the studio. George Russell's always coming by. He's talking with all these F1 drivers all the time. And they're taking cars out and driving them and having fun. And I said, do any of those guys ever ask for a manual? And he goes, no. And I go, why not? And he goes, because it's not as fast. And it was like it wasn't even on their frame of mind. Obviously, I know there's a lot of other things involved, but I thought that was so interesting because I knew you were going to bring that up, Matt, and I did ask him. And he just was like, it's not as fast or efficient.
Right. But also, you're talking about Formula One drivers who are maximum 25 years old, right? So,
well, except for Lewis, but
think about think about Ferrari's clientele.
I know.
I'm sure that Lewis probably has an amazing car collection, and you're right, he's older, so he has more experience. But most of the people who have the largesse to buy these vehicles are, I'm guessing, in their 50s, 60s.
Yeah.
They still remember the charm of operating a motor vehicle. And I also know that in terms of what enthusiasts want, and I keep thinking about this in Porsche's case, because in order to do well by your customers buying a new car, you should try and keep up the residual values of your old cars.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you want a 5-year-old Porsche or a 10-year-old Porsche, and you need 3 pedals, you're going to pay a premium of $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 for the manual version. If you're willing to take a PDK, which is fast and efficient and undoubtedly one of the best clutches you can buy on a road car in the world, you can get it on the cheap. So if you really care about, like Porsche should demand that customers take like the Sport Chrono Plus package. If you don't take that, it hurts the value on resale. Porsche should encourage customers to buy the manual transmission because it really helps on resale. And that just shows that people who truly care about cars, people who value, who covet these machines, they want that kind of engagement, not a millisecond quick shift of a paddle. Maybe I'm just on my soapbox.
I'm applauding. Yes, that was a beautiful.
Actually, on the subject of the 911 that I want to someday purchase, I want an older one, and I don't really know which generation. Do I want the 3.2? Do I want the 964, 993, 997? I'm kind of honed in on that. But we get a lot of viewer email or listener email supporting that idea that we do an entire episode dedicated to breaking down older 911s. Should we do that? Should we kick it off?
Yes. Yeah. I mean,
that's a yes.
Yes. We're not starting it at this moment right now, but you mean like kick off the year?
Yes. Sorry.
Like kick off our year.
Should we do that? Should we kick off the year with that?
I think we should.
I have managed to wrangle Doug DeMuro. We could always probably get your husband to join us.
Of course.
There's a guy.
Maybe we do a dueling
in the Pacific Northwest. Nathan Mertz, who's a specialist. So we'll get one of those guys on and we'll talk about that. But I appreciate.
He just had a big purchase, didn't he?
Yeah, he just got that turbo.
No, I mean his company.
Oh, what? He sold his company? Again?
That's what I hear.
Wow.
Yeah.
He did say. When I asked him if he would join us on the podcast, he's like, "Yeah, I'm trying actually not to work that much, but."
After this latest thing, I don't think he's going to have to for a minute.
We got
I heard certain numbers.
Other emails we always get guest suggestions, and someone suggested Zach Brown, which is a great idea. We have had Zach Brown on before. We have
had Zach. He's a great guest.
Yeah, he really is. By the way, when you talk about Charlie Agapu, the guy who works on some of your cars,
yes,
he was a famous race mechanic right before.
Oh man, he was the pit boss for Ken Miles and Carroll Shelby racing at Le Mans in the glory days. That movie Ford versus Ferrari. There is a guy who's like the Charlie person in that movie. That's Charles. That's Charlie. Yeah, who works on the Rolls Royces.
Well, I thought of it because someone else who wrote in, and by the way, we encourage emails at hotpursuit@bloomberg.net. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Hotpursuit@bloomberg.net. Yeah, that's right. Hotpursuit@bloomberg.net. So John is a longtime listener, first-time caller. No, actually, he's emailed us a bunch in the past. We talk about Audis with him and stuff. But he was at an event where he ran into a guy called Carl Friedrich, who apparently was Fangio's mechanic.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Back in the day, and he sent a picture of this guy, which I thought was very cool. So I'm always interested in hearing about old timers who worked with these legends back in the day. And I don't think they get enough credit, right? I mean, being the driver takes some cojones. You need some skill and some courage, but you have to have good mechanics.
You're
or else
only
you're not
as
gonna
good
win.
as your mechanic. Unbelievably so true. I mean, to find someone who's honest and capable and quick is really difficult. And yeah, I'm seeing this picture that John sent. Wow, we should. Cool. He is a treasure. John says he's quite the treasure to have still around, and it's so true. These guys are really legends. By the way, I was thinking this the other day. If I was starting out again, maybe I should be a Rolls-Royce mechanic because there's a lot of demand. I think you could have a good career.
It looks like also the picture that John sent, it looks like Carl Friedrich, this mechanic, is standing next to Wayne Carini. Is that Wayne Carini?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it is.
That's not my generation, so I'm not sure.
All right. Well, Wayne Carini, he's the car restorer, right? Chasing Classic Cars is.
Yeah, I
you don't
know
watch
the
a lot
name.
of TV.
Yeah, no, I truly don't. I only watch reality TV.
All right. Well, we do love pictures, and Don, who's also a longtime listener, he's kind of helping me out, giving me advice on where to look in terms
Holding
of Porsche.
Your hand.
And
Yes.
he seems to have an amazing car collection himself. I was talking about a Ferrari 308, and I keep seeing them on BAT, and they don't go for too much more than nice old air-cooled Porsches. He says, look, if you want a 308, but you're worried about how tall you are, and Don, I think himself is like 6'4".
Yes.
He says, look at the Mondial. And I always immediately discount the Mondial because my old boss, way back here at Bloomberg TV, had a Mondial in Bronxville, and he was trying to sell it to me all the time. So I always think if he had one and he wants to sell it to me.
Criminally underloved.
Yeah, I'm looking at the picture of Don's. It looks nice.
I know. You know, I have always heard it pronounced Mondial.
Oh, I could be wrong because I always thought it was Bugatti Chiron. Is that right? Chiron or Chiron?
Oh, I say Chiron. Oh. Chiron is what goes on the TV screen.
So maybe I was right about.
You're totally right.
Chiron.
The Bugatti Chiron. Chiron. So that is a CNN thing.
You hear Mondial?
Yeah, Mondial.
Interesting. Yeah. I assume.
I'm sure we're going to get a letter about this, but I've always heard, because I just saw one at the best cars and coffee in LA lately, is the one at Griffith Park. It's every last Sunday of the month. And there was a very cool Mondial there. And everyone around me was saying Mondial.
Well, I believe you.
But I'm not correcting you. I'm just saying, oh, that's interesting.
Except for you did also think it was Burmeister. And I double-checked.
I thought it was Burmeister.
Ah, yes. It's
Burmeister.
Burmester.
Did you Google it and then listen to how it's pronounced?
I talked to someone about it. Also, there's no I. So
I know. Well, I know, but tomato. But you're saying it's Burmester.
Yes. And everything brings me back. Porsche is like my Miata. Everything brings me back to the Porsche. I don't know when people spec, especially like high-end Porsches. If you're already paying like $140 or $150 for the 911 of your dreams, and it's like a 4S cab or whatever, why don't people spec the Burmester, the higher-end stereo? Everybody specs the Bose, and then if you're looking at the used, the classified ads, they're like, oh, and it has the high-end Bose stereo system. But that's not nearly as good as the Burmester. In fact, it sounds horrible.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. Oh, didn't you say that GM had some also audio news this week? This is changing a little bit, but you mentioned it to me.
Yes, so this Dolby. Is very cool. GM, of course, I would say either famously or infamously is getting rid of Apple CarPlay in most of its offerings, which is fine because their infotainment system is so good that you don't need Apple CarPlay. You already have Google Maps and everything else. But I use Apple Music. I don't use Spotify. My wife uses Spotify. I can't figure it out. Apple Music to me is the best because it has everything I need. It's on demand and it's like, I don't know, $10 a month. And GM is now putting Apple Music in their own infotainment system. So if you were like, I don't want to get a GM car because it doesn't have CarPlay and I'm an Apple Music guy or gal, you person, that's a great neutral word.
Whatever's convenient.
Now you don't have to worry about that because they have Apple Music.
That's great. I watched Spinal Tap last night for obvious reasons, and it reminds me of the doubly. Remember the scene where the girlfriend's mispronouncing Dolby?
No.
She's telling him they mixed the album wrong, but it should have been in doubly. And they're like, you mean Dolby?
But that actually is an important point on GM also. So they will have Dolby Atmos.
Yes.
In the Cadillacs, and I was trying to see.
Yes, we've reported that.
Which brands? You've reported it. Maybe I didn't notice, but it's only Mercedes, Audi, Lucid, Polestar, Cadillac, and Rivian. Those are the only ones that have Dolby Atmos.
Well, you may recall our wonderful guest Tim Pride, who joined us from Dolby, who is the head of Dolby Music. He still is.
Yes.
Remember him?
Yes, and I remember
and
when
was
you were
so interesting.
When you were listening to Atmos, weren't you in a Cadillac?
Yes, I was. And it was one of those things where I went for a test drive, and then they're like, "Oh, here, come sit in the car, and we're gonna do like this we're gonna have a whole presentation about Dolby." And I was just kind of like, why am I wasting my time doing this? And I was kind of annoyed. Then I got in the car with Tim, and it was awesome. And he completely changed my mind about it and why it's important. All this, he told me all this really cool stuff. So I get it now, because before I was just rolling my eyes thinking this is such like a marketing thing.
I'm going to dig a little deeper because I can't wait to hear it. And I don't think, even if I've been in a car that has Dolby Atmos, I'm not sure if I was paying very close attention. But next week is Christmas, and we won't be here, right?
That's right.
We're taking off.
We're going to take off. We're going to go to ground. Re-energize.
We've only done this once before where we skipped a week.
And I think it was last Christmas,
It was,
right?
No.
Or last New Year.
I was in Italy this summer, remember? And
we recorded with you from Italy.
I think we recorded 1 week, and then the next week
Did we run it? Really?
We just picked a greatest hits thing.
Wow. Time flies.
But the good news is we have something now to give to our listeners. At least one listener, we have a present for you. Let's see who it was. I'm looking back in my emails. We have, Clarence. We have a present for Clarence. We're going to replay the Zach Brown episode. Yeah,
and wow. I think it's timely because of how the season ended. But Zach Brown's just an interesting guy in general.
Yeah, but also, they won the Constructors' Championship, and Lando won the Drivers' Championship, right? Am I wrong about this?
No, you're right.
I don't watch
Lando,
F1,
but it was close. He only won by 2 points in the end. It was close, a nail biter.
I'm happy for him. I'm more of a MotoGP guy. Yeah. Anyway, have a fantastic holiday.
Thank you. You too.
Season, whatever you celebrate.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I celebrate Christmas. It's a pretty holiday.
I celebrate Festivus for the rest of us. Check out Hannah's columns and stories on Bloomberg.com and the Bloomberg Business app. Go there for car reviews, events, and stories that you won't find anywhere else. Find it all at Bloomberg.com/pursuits/autos. I'm Matt Miller.
And I'm Hannah Elliott. We'll be back in your podcast feed again next week.